I'm sad and tell you that I'm disappointed.
But did you go to therapy with her?
For a moment, it looked like Jeannie Mai was winning after the breakup, but then everything flipped overnight. It all fell apart, in a matter of days. Not slowly, not quietly, but all at once, like everything had been waiting for the perfect moment to collapse. 1 minute, Jeannie Mai looked like she was finally stepping into a new chapter, smiling again, posting again, hinting at something fresh, something hopeful. And the next, that entire narrative started slipping through her fingers. Because just as people were beginning to believe she had moved on,
It's not been a easy journey.
everything around her started moving faster than she could control. Suddenly, she wasn't the one telling the story anymore. It started with whispers, the kind that spread quietly at first. Rumors linking her to Anderson.Poc. Nothing confirmed, nothing official, just enough to get people talking. And in today's world, that's all it takes. A glance, a sighting, a moment caught on camera. And suddenly, a new relationship is born in the eyes of the internet. At first it seemed exciting. A fresh start after everything she had been through. A chance to rewrite the ending. But what people didn't expect was how quickly that story would end. Because before it could even become real,
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
this has
it was over. No announcement, no closure, just silence, followed by distance. And that kind of ending, it doesn't just disappear. It lingers. It raises questions. And it leaves space for speculation. But just as the attention was starting to focus on that, something else happened. Something bigger. Something that completely shifted the spotlight. Jeezy stepped out. And he didn't step out alone. He stepped out with someone who instantly changed the entire conversation. Nia Long. And just like that, everything flipped. Because now it wasn't about Jeannie anymore. It was about him. About who he chose. About how it looked. About what it meant. And the way it looked, that's what really got people talking. Because it didn't feel messy. It didn't feel rushed. It didn't feel like damage control. It felt calm, intentional. Like something that had been built quietly, away from the noise. And that contrast, it was impossible to ignore. On one side you had a situation that felt unfinished, unclear, still trying to find its footing. And on the other, you had something that looked grounded, stable, almost effortless. And in the world of public perception, that difference matters more than anything. Fans started going back, rewatching interviews, looking at old clips. Moments that once felt normal, now felt different. Because hindsight has a way of revealing things you didn't notice before. The chemistry, the conversations, the way they spoke about each other. At the time it seemed harmless, but now, felt like something more. And then came the timing. That's what really made people pause. Because both Jeezy and Nia Long weren't just moving on. They were healing from something. Nia had just gone through one of the most public and painful breakups in recent memory. Her relationship with Ayumi Udoka didn't just end. It exploded into headlines. And the impact wasn't just emotional. It was personal. Especially with a child involved. She spoke about it. Not in a way that felt performative, but in a way that felt real. Raw. Like someone trying to process something they never expected to face publicly. The betrayal. The disappointment. The weight of having to stay strong, not just for herself but for her family. And people connected with that. They saw her not just as an actress, but as a woman dealing with something deeply human. At the same time, Jeezy was going through his own storm. His marriage to Jeannie Mai didn't end quietly either. It came with tension, with disagreements, with narratives that didn't fully align. There were claims. There were responses. Moments where it felt like things might settle. And others where it felt like there was no coming back. And when two people go through that kind of chaos at the same time, something interesting can happen. They understand each other in ways that other people can't. And sometimes, that understanding turns into something more. At first it didn't look like anything serious. Just two people supporting each other, spending time, talking, healing. But over time, that connection seemed to grow. Quietly, without announcements, without pressure. And when something grows like that, it tends to feel real. Meanwhile, back on the other side of the story, things weren't unfolding the same way. What looked like a new beginning for Jeannie Mai was starting to feel like a false start. Because when something ends before it even begins, it creates a different kind of narrative. Not one of growth, but one of confusion. And the internet, it notices everything. Every post, every caption, every subtle shift in tone. And when those details don't line up with the story people expect, they start asking questions. Was it real? Was it rushed? Was it just timing? Or was there something deeper going on behind the scenes? Because perception is everything. And right now, the perception wasn't in her favor. On one side, you had a relationship that looked like it was built on healing. On the other, you had a situation that looked like it was still searching for stability. And that contrast told a story. Whether it was true or not, didn't matter. Because once a narrative takes hold, it spreads fast. Now, feels like everything is happening at once. The breakup, the rumors, the shift in attention. It's not just one moment. It's a series of moments, colliding. And when that happens, it's hard to keep control. Because in today's world, your story doesn't just belong to you. It belongs to the audience. The headlines, the comments, the speculation. And right now, that audience is watching closely. Some people feel sympathy. Others are more critical. But almost everyone is asking the same question. What really happened? Was this just bad timing? Or was it something that had been building for a long time? Because situations like this don't come out of nowhere. They come from layers, decisions, moments that seemed small at the time, but added up over time, until one day, everything reaches a breaking point. Maybe that's what we're seeing now. Not just a bad situation, not just a messy timeline, but the result of everything finally catching up. Because while one story is ending, another one is beginning. And the difference between those two stories is what makes this moment feel so powerful. On one side, you have something that feels steady, intentional, grounded in understanding. On the other, you have something that feels uncertain, unresolved, still trying to find its place. And that contrast is what keeps people watching. Because this isn't just about relationships. It's about timing, about how quickly things can change, about how one moment can shift everything. 1 minute, you're stepping into something new. The next, you're trying to figure out what just happened. And in the middle of all that, the world is watching, analyzing, reacting, forming opinions. But maybe the real story isn't about who moved on first, or who looks better right now. Maybe it's about something deeper, about how people heal differently, how some people move quietly, and others move quickly, how some connections are built over time, and others don't get the chance. Because in the end, this isn't just a celebrity story. It's a reflection of how life works, of how unpredictable things can be, of how sometimes everything changes before you even realize what's happening. Maybe that's the hardest part. Not the breakup, not the headlines, but the moment when you realize the story you thought you were living has already moved on without you. Now, you're left trying to understand where it all went wrong. Because sometimes the ending doesn't come with closure. It comes with questions. And right now, there are a lot of them.